everyone, I'm Holly with Missouri River Soap, and today I'm making some peach sea salt soaps. The first thing I'm going to add is my coconut milk. And a sea salt soap for my recipe, which I have shared before if you go back and do a little looking, I use coconut, castor, and cocoa butter. Coconut soap, high coconut soap, can still lather even with the salt. So there's a story about, the fishermen would use a coconut oil soap because it would lather in ocean water. Why we make it is it's just a really hard soap, very luxurious, has a creamy dense lather. Sea salt soaps are mildly exfoliating, and so I recommend them just for your arms and legs, your back and your belly. Stay away from your more sensitive skin and areas. I'm going to go ahead and add in some mica. I'm going to add in just the one. Well, we'll do just a hint more because I actually have another batch made already, but it's a little bit darker than I wanted. This will fade. Even though this is coral reef, it is going to fade down to more of a peachy orange. So I'm going to go ahead and get that all blended in. And since this is just a single color soap, I don't mind adding the mica in now. Now this does look like a very small batch, but the cubes over here, the chunks, are going to come into play. So in with the lye solution. So coconut oil soap without a super fat can be drying. So we do super fat the coconut oil soaps from 15 to 20% usually, and what that means is that we're not having an equal balance between the sodium hydroxide and the oil. There's basically, kind of like an excess of the oil properties that creates a buffer zone. So even though it's high coconut and it has the salt, it's not super drying. I have often found that either you love sea salt soap or you don't love sea salt soap. Now yesterday when I made the other batch, I did blend it a little bit too much and it got pretty thick on me at the end. So I'm going to try to avoid that. This is a custom fragrance blend. Most of my fragrances are custom blended. It's mixed a little bit of a peach Bellini with a standard peach. So I do not measure this. Sea salt soaps can have pretty much any measure of sea salt as is desired. A lot do 100% or equal parts oil to the sea salt. I do 50% sea salt. These 32-ounce bottles are typically around 35 ounces. So I just throw the whole thing in there. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. I just get that at Sam's Club, but I did just, I have a massive amount of salts coming from Wholesale Supplies Plus. So I'm moving on up in the world. I bought like 55 pounds of it. I'm using about 75 ounces of this pre-made. These are pre-made sea salt soaps with the same fragrance that I've just cut up into little chunks. Let me tell you, that was a chore. That took a while. So now, here's the thing. Because we're not cutting into these rainbow chunk sea salt soaps, it's mostly going to be hidden. But obviously, as you use it, it'll be like colored stones, I would say, inside. I don't know, because they haven't cured yet, so I can't test it, but that's my theory. That's what I'm thinking it's gonna be. Sea salt soaps can be very difficult to cut. They have to be cut right away, and sometimes they'll still even crumble kind of at the bottom of the bar. So I find that I don't do it that way. I do it in a mold, but that means I won't be cutting through. I do want to try that again sometime with these colored chunks, but I made these chunks so long ago at this, last week, that the chunks themselves are too far cured. So maybe what I'll do next time is make the soap and make sure it's not drying out. So I am going to pour it out into this pitcher. Whoop! I am just making a big old mess today. I get complaints that I'm a messy soaper, but I agree, I'm a messy soaper. So as it turns out, I am not a perfect human being. And I've come to accept that in my life at this point. Alright, so it's very thick, as you can see. And it's very interesting working with it. I'm kind of glad that I did one first before I did the video, because it is just a little bit weird. But again, remember, that's all just sea salt soap in there. We're all doing the same thing. And it's just kind of cool. And this is going to tone down more into an orange. I'm going to smack this down in just a moment, but I'm just going to go ahead and pour in what I can. This would look so cool with white too. I started this situation with the peach, and so I'm just remaking at this point so that they match. But I am going to have some extra, so I may still do that. I did find that using a spoon to kind of make sure those were all just tapped in worked nicely. Some of these need a little bit more. I just think these are going to be so much fun to use. I actually have a 5th mold. Whoop, that was too full. And I had guessed what the batch size was going to be, but I decided not to increase the second one for the 5th, just so that I kept all my numbers the same. It was easy to keep track of how much soap and how much everything. Oh, and I also had my fragrance. That was about the last of my fragrance. I may make another batch with a very similar fragrance blend, but it won't be exact. So I don't know. This might have to be good enough. Couple batches. Between the cubes and everything, it ended up being quite a lot of fragrance needed, and I'd already mixed it, but it left me with no more fragrance. That one's still a little full. I did increase the water on this batch because it was a little bit difficult to work with. So these molds, I know I'm going to be asked, these molds are from Wholesale Supplies Plus, Crafter's Choice. They're called the Body Bar Square Mold 1624. And I just really love them for making the salt soaps. And they also have a box at Wholesale Supplies Plus, a square box. And the soaps fit just perfectly in this box. And so that's why I prefer his shape. I used to do the round ones, but I couldn't find a box that really fit them well. So That's that story. So I do have some left, which I'll pour out in a little bit. So I have some of the little cubes here still. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the cubes on the top in the center, and then I'm going to push those down in a moment with my spoon so I don't have to put my fingers all in it. I tried to kind of get them towards the center. This one looks a little bit wonky, but I'm not going to mess with it because yesterday when I made the others, I messed with it and it made the top that kind of the gritty look. So I'm just going to put these on. So as you can see, you don't really see a ton of that color. I mean, you do and you don't. These look pretty good. I'm loving how they look. Oops. Whoa, come back here. Just tap those down in a little. I want them to still fit in the box. The box has a round circle, so they could stick up a bit if needed, but then they might come too much in contact with other things. I probably could have filled these a little less full. So this is just a super fun peach, and if Fruit Loops fragrance didn't discolor, this would be so fun for a Fruit Loop. Look kind of off kilter, and maybe you can see a little bit better. Looks like I'm going to have to get just a hint more. So I still have all of these left, just a whole bunch. Looks like I've got a conglomeration of purple over here. Oh no! Oh well, it'll be fine. So just kind of scoop out some of the smaller pieces I found I like better, but not the super small pieces. There does get to be like almost a sand from the smaller salty pieces. So I'm just using a little bit of the Fairy Duster Sparkle Me Red from Mad Micas. Is that what they are now? Mad Micas? Yeah. I think there was a Mad Oils Mad Mica. I don't know. Anyway, I do like these Sparkle Me colors. Sparkle Me Red looks a little bit better on other things, but it's a nice fine glitter that I had in a bottle, so that's why I'm using it. Okay, so here we have the peachy sea salt soaps, and I will see you back here to unmold them. I am back to unmold these salt soaps, and I had inverted one of these trays on the top and covered it up with towels. I am not quite sure whether it got warm enough to gel or not. So they look really nice. I really love this color. The first batch was just a hint darker. See, you can't hardly tell, but it is just a little bit. And they just turned out so great. Now it's been a couple of days. I meant to, this gets very messy at this point. I have not been able to really find the materials I need to cover these trays. Cold processed soap, the sodium hydroxide, does not react well with aluminum, so you definitely have to have a cover for the aluminum, but paper towels and other things have been hard to come by. But I will take these and probably reline the tray that I'm going to have these cure on. So these are just kind of like, you know, they're just tri-fold towels. So I like to give these just a really good stretch to break them free. And then they usually pop out pretty good. Yeah, this one has done pretty well so far. Sometimes I'll get where the corners don't completely release from the mold well. I just find it's better to do it sooner, but these are looking great. I'm really pleased with how this batch turned out. So you can see how it's mostly just the small speckles. You're not really seeing a whole lot from the outside. These turned out so beautiful. Definitely going to make a third batch in a different scent. I do believe. Different peach scent. I say that now, but we'll see how things go. I try to have quite a lot of stock, but working with my time and everything that needs to get done around here, I'll try to fit in a third batch though. These get really messy, and I like to just soak these in hot water for a while before I go to wash it. I can see that like here, little bits of the corner didn't come out. These smell just amazing. I love this blend. I love peach, and I'm really obsessed with peach at the moment. I am toying with a peach spray. I have poppies and peaches, but it's a lovely spray, but it's not overly peachy. And I've been using it downstairs in my home and just loving it. So I'll see about bringing that on before too long. But I gotta restock on some supplies first. That's how it goes. I feel like I'm always at the end of supplies when something gets really popular, or I get obsessed with something, and then I have to wait for what feels like forever to get everything back in. This turned out great. Now this mold, it does have a little like lip right here, so if you fill it just right, the mold or the soap itself is almost beveled. I do love a silicone mold because this is so smooth and kind of shiny. But the top, you'll notice like where I cut through all those chunks, they're more of a matte finish. So the silicone really does give it a nice shiny finish. So this one is just a little bit messy. I don't bevel the bars too much, but I will sometimes come along this edge if I need to really make it look nice. This is just unmolding so well, better than usual, so I'm quite pleased with that. I've started adding a little bit of sodium lactate to my sea salt soaps. Sodium lactate is just a salt, typically derived from beets, I believe. I'll have to look that up again. And it just helps to make soaps harder. And since I was having such trouble unmolding, I did decide to start adding some sodium lactate in to see how it goes, because my sea salt soaps, because I only use 50% of salt, they're not quite as hard from the beginning as say 100%, you know, equal oil to salt ratio. This tray was very messy. Getting in my stacking zone over here. I just try to break off those little bits and kind of clean it up. The salt can be a little gritty to work with at first, because it doesn't dissolve. It's all still encapsulated in the soap. It just turned out so cute. Goodness, I love it when a plan comes together. So these are really not going to take a whole lot of cleanup, which is super nice. We'll just get them put right into their boxes once they've cured. So here we have the super cute peach sea salt soaps. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.